Hello and welcome to Saltwater for the Soul. You are here with myself, Mandee and my beautiful friend and soul sister, Lexi Duquette, also known as Sea Goddess Healing Arts as our mermaid in the mountains. Hey Lex, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Mandee? How's the beach?
I'm good. It was amazing. I had a beautiful walk this morning with my dogs, and I left it in the other room, but I found a beautiful black feather, which is very rare for me. And I felt like it just was really in tune with a lot of stuff I was stepping into all this week and reflecting upon this morning. And it just felt really right because we're recording this now. What is it, like August 3rd, August 5th of
August 5th.
2021? Yeah, we're in the Lionsgate Portal, and there's a lot happening right now. And I wanted to invite Lexi to be on this show because Saltwater for the Soul is all about taking a look at kind of the deeper stuff, sometimes the harder stuff, and putting salt water into wounds to help them to heal. And so, something that Lexi and I want to talk about today is kind of unraveling the dark night of the soul and what that looks like and what it's all about. So, what do you think, Lex?
Oh, we need to dive into this. I am so excited and ready to dive into this. And I love it's so perfect because I think salt water for the soul. And I feel like the waves, that ocean, like right, those ebbs and flow, like they come in and they come in to just like wash away, right? Like the power of water. And it's the soul, the flow, the soul. There's just such a beautiful connection here. I'm so excited. This is like such a perfect space too in time for this conversation.
I think so. And you're right. That's just it. I feel like when you put salt water in a wound, it gives it an opportunity to be seen, to be heard, to be flushed. And our soul deserves that just as much because though our souls are beautiful and intimate and infinite and amazing, they also are very impacted here in this earth realm. And the things that impact them the most are our experiences, our perceptions, our actions, our reactions, our responses, and things that come up for us on an emotional, mental, sometimes spiritual level can get stuck in our biomagnetic field. And so just as we want to flush and cleanse our bodies and our minds, we want to be able to do that as much as we can with aspects of our soul as well. And I think this whole dark night of the soul journey is something that is so known and talked about and something everyone's experienced. But at the same time, I came to find out it doesn't have to be all that scary. And it was actually
Wow.
for me like a ripping off of the band-aid and realizing that the dark night of the soul is like your first step to peace. And it's like an unraveling because you have to release so many parts of yourself and your ego and your ways of thinking and being that are no longer serving you. But at the same time, it's what you're ordering up and what you asked for. And it's the gateway into the next best steps for you and for your soul and for your soul path. And it really doesn't have to be, you can grieve it a bit, but it doesn't have to be that scary.
Yeah, and I feel like right now with the Lionsgate portal, it's really bringing up the things that no longer serve us. And our soul is like, get rid of this, do it, bring it up, release it, let go so you can step into that, into what you really want to create. And I feel like with the help of the moon and the energy and the tide, right? There's salt wound, these salt water is coming up into these wounds. These wounds are coming up to be healed, to be heard right now. And it's I feel like there's a lot of people that are feeling this that are, more in tune with the moon than they realize. I know I'm one of them. And when I stepped into that, oh, I can use this for my higher good, knowing that I am in tune with the moon and knowing that I can use these cycles, use this to help, guide myself on this journey and this experience. And I've done a dance, as you know, with this dark night. And it was that built up of fear. And it's when you get to that point where you can finally just say, all right, I'm going to head on face my fear. It takes that fear away because you're empowered. And there is so much fear around it. Thankfully for amazing people like you, the holistic, what is her name? The holistic, who's really bringing it up.
Psychologist
Yes, the
Nicole
holistic.
LaPera, she's
She is,
amazing.
I feel like she's bringing a lot of light to it. She's been really loud and putting like some great content out there about it. And it's the fact that this has been like a topic that has been repressed and suppressed, right? Like, don't acknowledge it that because it's a sign of weakness, and it's not. It's a passage that we should be proud about going through, right? And be excited about. And for me, I know I was like, didn't understand. I thought I went through it. And okay, so what I went through, if that wasn't it, then what good was it? Why did I go through it? No, I had to go through it. It was like the baby steps leading me up to this intense transformation. And I finally realized like it's placed on my timeline. I had to go through so many experiences and able to get there. Do you know what I mean? I had to do so much kind of prep work. I stuck my toe in a couple times and then jumped out and was like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not ready. And, I was only prolonging that, that the good. I was only prolonging and staying in cycles. I wasn't, breaking
I
free.
do. And you never realize that until you're through it, till you're on the other side. You're like,
No.
oh my God, I made myself suffer for so long when I didn't need to, or had I added this in, it could have.
Yes.
However, for those of you tuning in, and for both of us, it's also divine just as much as you were asleep to it, just as much as you were unconscious. Every time you repeated those cycles, there was divinity to it and there was purpose
Yes.
to it. And there is divine timing, like in this beautiful portal we're in now, where we get to look back and see. And sometimes the dark nights happen, usually when we're struggling with something, whether it's a physical injury or illness or money or security or whatever, relationships. There's always something that's a catalyst for change for it, because then you get an opportunity to finally respond differently and not repeat the same exact patterns and cycles. Many people feel like the dark night of the soul is like, this one big traumatic event or something like that, but it's not. It's actually like an unveiling of your response to all your past events.
I kind of feel like it's checking your ego. It's finally doing that ego work. Do you know what I mean?
That's
And
what
finally
it is.
checking your ego at the door. The ego is something I feel like you do that devilish dance with for so long. And until you address it and like put it in its place, then it's not so over control. You know what I mean? And the soul, I feel like wants to. And we talk about like physical ailments. I feel like there's never truly anything really physical. It's only something that the soul, you're not listening to your soul or to your body. So now it's manifesting physically.
I
Because
agree.
you know what I mean? So it's like any physical ailment healing can't be done without the soul and that
Within my
alignment.
own experience, that's what I found. I was going to all these doctors trying to figure out what was wrong. And then you get a diagnosis and then you're like, wait, do I really want this for the rest of my life? And we're taught to believe we have no choice. But actually, if you dig really deep, you find out that the body is really a faithful servant to the mind, and the soul is very much connected to all of that as well. And if you have an opportunity to start dropping out of your head and the mind and into your heart and into your soul and listening, then you're able to realize that actually your ego, which is still a big part of you, it's you in this lifetime. For me, I consider it my best friend, my experience and wisdom and knowledge from this one specific life. However, I let my soul lead now. And I choose to listen to that instead of my mind or my ego. And I let my ego be there to be my best friend, to help me to serve others and to step forward into my own path as much as possible. And it's not always the easiest thing because we're taught so much to be up in our heads. And it's really hard to take a few breaths and to drop down into your heart and say, okay, what is the next best step for me? What is the next best step for those who I'm helping or encouraging or showing up for right now, whether that's my dogs or, the business I'm working on or whatever it is. There's all these little micro steps that we can use in every aspect of our life. And it's beautiful and it's freeing, but it does take a little bit of hard work with our egos. And sometimes we do. You said one day this week, you're like, I'm ready to, what did you say, murder my ego or something?
Yes, I was really ready. I was like, I was done. I was so frustrated. I got to a point where I was so disgusted with myself because I finally was able to call my ass out of playing victim mode and certain mindsets, and you know what I mean? Like it was I had to hold myself accountable, and part of that process was realize where it was coming from.
Yeah, it's a leveling up. It's a level of growing up in radical personal responsibility. in each and every aspect of your life. And then you call yourself out on it and you're like, oh shit, I definitely did this a lot in the past and it didn't serve me. And I can see how other people get frustrated or how it wasn't serving me or how I co-created this. And it's okay and safe to let that go, even though that can be really uncomfortable. And that's what the dark night is about. It's about the unknown. It's about stepping in to this more pure aspect of who you are without the ego that got created along the way, influencing it as much.
And I think the fear is the worst part. It's that fear of like, what is it gonna like? Because you don't know yet. Because if you did know, you would have done it already and it wouldn't be the issue. You know what I mean? So it's that fear of a change. And so the one thing that I've been telling myself this entire time is okay, the digger you deep, the bigger the shift, right? And I realized finally that in leveling up, I was always falling victim whenever it came to a point in my life to be able, or an obstacle to level up at. I never looked at that as an obstacle to level up. I always looked at it as a challenge knocking me down and knocking me out and back.
And
I
that's
didn't look
boom, perception shift. Like that right there for
Yeah.
all of our listeners is like some of the biggest work in this.
The work ultimately is totally breaking down everything you think you know, and then starting kind of from scratch and rebuilding it with your intuition and your soul, because we've been kind of trained to not listen to our intuition, believe this, do this, and it all usually are. If you do the work, you realize a lot of it's contradicting your intuition, right? And you're suppressing that true self. You're suppressing that authentic self in that process, and that only ends up manifesting in your body as ailments, as problems, as pains, as cycles that you get stuck in, because these cycles are a chance for you to show that you've learned. It's a chance for you to change and apply what you need to level up. When you show up like a dumbass, right, and you don't make the change, you continue the cycle.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. Like for me, in my own experience, I realized every time I was spraining my ankle or I broke my back 3 times. And then I grew up spraining both of my ankles all the time, torn so many ligaments in both of them and tendons and broken bones and things like that. I was having gout attacks. I was having all these really physical things happening all the time. And once I read Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life, and started pairing that with some like really like mindfulness work around eating and understanding my body more. I worked with like Joe Dispenza's work a lot to like help my mindfulness. And then I did medical medium cleanses in order to start balancing my body. And so I hit mind, body, spirit, and soul, like all together with all of those resources. And it just was phenomenal what could happen what did happen once I started releasing that and calling myself out on my own shit and being like, oh, I know I sprained my ankle because I was like in a shitstorm earlier today, feeling guilty about this or being afraid to move forward with that. Or, my upper back's like in pain right now because I'm not allowing myself to feel supported. And like, yeah, in our life, like sometimes we need help with other things and the help doesn't come in. And when the help's not there, instead of like, complaining or feeling sorry or wallowing about it, it's an opportunity to build trust with your higher self, with your angels, with the environment you're in right now. Because yeah, maybe help would show up, but maybe it would end up causing more chaos or bring in like some energetic vampires or just some things that maybe aren't going to serve you that day. And it's amazing what happens when you sit back and trust and be the best person you can be at the moment, but also allow yourself to co-create. And it's this crazy point of zero balance and neutrality within ourselves that we have to start meeting the outside world with. And it's a dance and it's not easy. And it is, the big part of the whole dark night of the soul is learning how to operate in those frequencies.
Yeah. But I noticed too, okay, it's that fear. The hardest part of it all is that fear leading up to the action you take to make the change.
Agreed.
Once you step into that fear and you find whatever it takes for you to do it, for me, it was support. For me, it was just so being fed up with these cycles and being like, I will do whatever it takes. So I gave in, I asked for help, I called in support, I called in help, and then I went within. Then I went within and was like, I am not looking for any outside validation on this. I'm not coming out of this until I am okay with myself. Because I was also, for me, this dark night shed the light on that truth of how what you see in others is what you see in yourself, like that mirror effect, right? So that was like one of those big things that came up. And I really had to look at all of my relationships with my children, the relationships with my family, my spouse, everybody, my friends. Really, in order to look at those, I had to look at myself. And when I did that, I was like, oh, I got to work this. I got to change this. And I went through this process where I was like, oh my God, I felt some really low vibrations for a second. There was a chance that they wanted to sneak in. And I realized this is a chance for me to level up. Okay. Yeah, you know what I mean? Because I was like, am I going to go that thought process here? No, I'm not going to feel shame that wasn't living my most authentic life, because I know I didn't know it yet. I didn't understand it then.
You do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. Dr. Ryan.
Exactly.
I live by it. And then your higher self holds you accountable after you go through the dark nights.
But the beauty of it is, though, is when you do that, this world is about, like, I feel like instant gratification. We all look for, some sort of sign that we're doing the right step. I feel like there was some instant gratification there, and feeling an acknowledgement that, yes, you did it, you're doing it, keep going. Do you know what I mean? Because I think the hardest part is when you're clueless, or you're so afraid to keep making the mistake, so you don't do anything, or you freeze. And so it really is a mental battlefield that you got to navigate through, and it's up to you to choose your thought process. And that's what makes it or breaks it, is your mental thought process, your mental state. Are you telling yourself you can't make it, this is horrible? It was funny, because there's times where even now where I'll be like, change. One of Joe Dispenza's tips, right? He talks about in one of his meditations that, okay, the first step is just calling yourself out and just saying it out loud anytime you catch your thought process, or you know what I mean, whatever it is that you're looking to change, and you just yell change. So now I'll catch my thoughts going to a negative place. I'll be like, change. And it's like the most random time. Sometimes it's like louder than I expect. Sometimes I, wake the baby up, but it's okay. It's okay.
Hey, he's rocking and rolling with it. That's sweet baby Ryan. He was taking a nice nap when we started recording, and he's still doing awesome. I love that, and that change mindset. And then I used to do that. Louise Hay helped me the most, because she would say, stop out. You can make up your own thing. It can be purple elephants, whatever it is, creating something where you become aware of your thoughts. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm on autopilot and I just have these thoughts coming in. And now, wait a minute, I'm aware of what I'm thinking. I'm aware that I'm, acting this way, or being resentful, or pining on this. What you got, girl? What were you going to say?
So there is, though, it's a nice awareness, but there is a point where you can go to, where I went at one point, was too hyper aware. And then I was like, oh my God, like I was almost totally like paralyzed by this hyper awareness of everything for a little bit.
I think that happens to a lot of people. I'm glad you're speaking about that.
It was really intense. And that was part where I was like, I want to get off this ride. I almost would rather be blind. I'm like, no, I don't want to be blind. And like had to talk myself, through it. But you know what? In those moments that I find myself struggling and fighting in battle, that's where I do what you always tell me to do. Put on Louise Hay, put on Joe Dispenza, put on something, you know what I mean? I find
get out of your head and into someone else's, I'll say sometimes.
Yes.
When you're because that's the thing, because then you'll create these vortexes. And sometimes, or like, the whole move a muscle, move a thought, like you just get out there and start doing something, drop on the yoga mat, take a walk around the block. Go help somebody with the dishes, like be of service with something. It helps you to sometimes when you're over aware, because it will paralyze you, and it will create even more vortexes. And the way you do that is by taking a deep breath, forcing yourself, using that physical life force to just go and shift and do something different, whether it's push play on an audiobook, or doing the dishes, or taking a walk, or some
pushing
yoga,
play on the audiobook while doing the dishes. I dreaded doing dishes. And I had to make it so I was doing something for me while doing the dishes. So now I get to watch one of my Gaia shows, or listen to one of my Hay House audio recordings, because these are like my two back pocket apps that are like, I can't live without. They're amazing. Everything is right there. And it's like, That's okay. So talking about the change of thought process, right? And changing the habits, that self-care that you taught me, a big something I've struggled with, right? A big struggle for mine is self-care. I take, as a mom, I know many moms do, many women, you don't even have to be a mom, just any set of ovaries or any female, we want to nurture and care. And there's women that don't even have kids, but they're a mom to dogs, animals, plants, and every other stranger on the block. Do you know what I mean?
Well, there's the biological pull to want to do that for sure.
Yeah.
And then there's also social conditioning in all of our societies and
That too.
religions and regions. Like we've been taught to put everyone else and everything else first before us and like overcare,
Yes.
and neglect. So there's both of those for sure.
And there's so many people that have said, and you included, like, for me, it's creating that first, as soon as I wake up, having this little ritual that I practice every morning. Starting that was the platform. It was the smallest, simplest step to apply to my life to start a radical change. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
This focusing on this simple that you got me started with, and it was so simple. List what you're grateful for, right? 5 to 10 things that you're grateful for. Just go within, take a moment, meditate, set your intentions for the day, journal, water, feed your body, give your body some love, whether it be some lemon water or a celery, smoothie. And then ask yourself, what do I need today? Right? Because that right there would be a question that would then get put off to the end of the day. Then I'd be resentful because my needs that I never discussed or even made a priority wouldn't be met, but I wasn't making them a priority. Nobody knows what I need, but I need. Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And so it's, it was okay. So instead of making the excuses that I can't find the time, how can I fit this in to this schedule, right? How can I fit it in? So listening to something while doing the dishes, you know what I mean? It was little things like that have made a difference in those changes, but it was a mindset, it was okay. I'm going to look forward. I'm going to listen to this today while I get the dishes done and fold some laundry. You know what I mean? And it took the mundane out of the mundane. It made it so I was kind of, checking off a little bit of me while still getting some things done.
And it's motivating. It's like, oh, I'm going to get the dishes done and I'm going to blow my own mind and learn some shit. Like, woohoo. Exactly. And like life gets exciting when you can co-create. And then you're like, oh my God, there's not enough time to learn and do all the things I want in this lifetime. And that very simple morning routine, I encourage everyone to just, if you don't already have one, this is the one Lexi was talking about that we give away all the time at Sea Goddess. But just when you wake up, take 3 deep breaths. And it takes a while to even remember to do your morning routine. So like be patient with yourself. Maybe leave a Post-it on your nightstand or your lamp or write on your phone, do morning routine when I wake up. And instead of looking at your phone first thing, taking a few, I wake up and my dogs have to go to the bathroom. So I like to do a couple things and then let them out and then get on with my routine. So I wake up, I take 3 deep breaths. I say, thank you so much for letting me breathe again, for letting me be here again. It's such a gift that we even get to incarnate into these physical vessels in this body, in this realm, in this lifetime. And we forget that because we're not taught it. So I take my 3 deep breaths and I say, thank you. Then I go over 10 things I'm grateful for. Why? Because gratitude is one of the highest vibrations that we can feel. And when we connect in with our gratitude, then we're able to, first of all, control how we're feeling when we wake up. Because if we wake up and we're like, oh my God, I got to do all this today, or this, my boss needs this, or I got to pay this bill or whatever, then we're starting in a space of overwhelm. Or if we start in a space of gratitude and it's like, yeah, there are things we have to do. Like we got to adult, we got to pay the bills, we got to do things. But if we wake up and we focus on something that's higher and we're like, you know what? I'm so glad I'm in this comfortable bed. I'm so grateful I have a roof. I'm so grateful I can take a shower right now. I'm grateful for my amazing dogs and my business, whatever it is. By the time you get to 10, your heart starts to feel full. You're like, ah. And then you meet this beautiful new day, this new moment in time. Even if you only slept a half hour the night before and had the worst night of your sleep, you can still meet this moment with peace. And you can still meet this moment with gratitude and then release that overwhelm, which keeps us blocked from so much. And then I set an intention. I ask my heart what it wants most or needs most. Sometimes it needs a little more sleep. Sometimes it wants to go for a walk. Sometimes it wants to make something amazing for dinner. Sometimes it needs to get organized and pay my bills that day. Like there's always an intention, and it's wonderful. And when you just tune in, it's like, it comes right in. And then that's it. Then I go and I let my dogs out. Then, excuse me, I do my celery juice, and then I feed the dogs, and I take them for a nice walk. And then I start looking at my phone and tune into the rest of the world and do my work. And I find that when I take time in the morning, whether it's 15 minutes, whether it's 2 hours, that morning time for me helps me to respond and be of service to myself and others so much better the rest of the day. And
Me
like we said,
too.
you can do it in 5 or 10 minutes. Do it around what works for you right now as you're building the bridge into the new.
Yeah. And you know, the biggest thing is too, is that it's okay. Like celebrate your little wins. You know what I mean? Like for me, it took first because I had a serious addiction to a pint of Ben and Jerry's every night in bed. Like this was for the longest time,
Amazing.
like the highlight of my day that I looked forward to. And I'd wait for everybody to go to sleep. And then I would sneak in the kitchen, and then I'd sit down in bed with this pint of strawberry cheesecake Ben and Jerry's and watch some stupid show that I'd end up actually picking anxiety up from, because I'm an empath and I forget that. And you know, it took, okay, not eating the full pint. Oh, good, baby steps. Do you know what I mean? And then it took like, because I was like, I was addicted to it. I was fully addicted. I had the craving. I was like, if I didn't have the pint of ice cream in the freezer, I'd be like, oh my God, what am I going to do tonight? I'm not going to be in balance with myself. It's so crazy what we tell ourselves and, you know, how things work.
So true. Well, we should probably let you and sweet baby Rye get back to doing life. But this was so incredible.
Yes, thank you for fitting in me during a nap. Like I had to fit in today. I was like, I needed some, you know, I needed this. So to fit it in during a nap, got some me time in. So any way you can fit it in, that's my challenge to everybody out there. I think I want to challenge everybody to like do something.
We do it with
fit in me
content.
time.
Yep, here with Sea Goddess, you know, we ebb and flow and we do our best. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for hanging out with us here on Sea Goddess Healing Arts. I am Mandee Elam. This is Lexi Duquette, our mermaid in the mountain.
Say bye.
This is baby Ryan. He likes to
give some knuckles.
Knuckles? Maybe. Sometimes.
Say we're sidetracked with
and
a
then,
Cant.
yeah. So cheers to the dark night of the soul and to Lionsgate. May you all be happy and free and at peace as much as possible in these moments. Take care. Bye, Lex. Bye, baby Rye.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye.
for everyone who tuned in. Take care.